Under Florida's golden sun, peace whispered through the streets, yet beneath it, Tampa's darkest secrets waited to erupt. A mother's home became her tomb of betrayal. A lover's embrace ended in blood and silence. A deputy's patrol car turned into a weapon of death. And a quiet driveway ran red beneath the morning sun. Now, their killers sit behind bars for decades, but justice can't resurrect the lost. Only remembrance keeps their voices alive, proof that even in paradise, darkness never truly sleeps. And this is Inside Tampa's Most Dangerous Black Killers Shocking True Crime Cases. Welcome back to Justice Reversed, where real crimes meet real justice. Number 1. Russell Antonio Moore. Under the Florida sun, where palm trees sway over quiet suburban streets, a home became a scene of unthinkable horror. The case of Russell Antonio Moore, 36, shattered the illusion of peace in Westchase, Tampa. Moore was charged with premeditated first-degree murder and tampering with physical evidence in connection with the death of his 54-year-old mother, Chambray Labrant Levy, a crime described by investigators as both brutal and deliberate. On Friday, the 6th of December 2024, at approximately 3:30 p.m., the 6-minute attack unfolded inside Levy's home, captured entirely on a surveillance camera. The video revealed Moore grabbing his mother from behind, slamming her to the floor, and striking her repeatedly in the head. When she stopped moving, he left the room, retrieved a gray concrete brick, returned, and threw it twice onto her head. Investigators later confirmed Levy remained motionless after the second blow. Following the killing, Moore destroyed the surveillance camera with a shovel, then covered Levy's body with blood-soaked blankets. The sister of the suspect told detectives their mother had recently inherited a substantial sum from her own mother's estate and intended to allocate part of it to Moore upon her death. Friends also reported that Levy had previously confided about domestic violence involving her son, who once threatened her with brass knuckles. On the morning of December 9, at 8:22 a.m., Moore called the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office. His tone was calm yet disturbing. He spoke about his mental health, mentioned lethal injection, and said there was a dead body here. Deputies were dispatched immediately to the home on Beatty Grove Drive. Upon arrival, deputies interviewed Moore outside the house. His demeanor was detached, his words cold. Concerned for the mother's safety, officers entered the home and found Levy's body lying inside, showing advanced signs of decomposition and severe upper body trauma. Detectives quickly recovered the broken surveillance equipment and retrieved the digital footage that documented the entire murder. Moore was arrested at the scene. During questioning, after being read his Miranda rights, he made erratic remarks about money and justice, claiming he lived a normal free life until he could access what belongs to me, my trust fund. He also insisted that lethal injection was his constitutional right. Prosecutors charged Moore with 1 count of premeditated first-degree murder and 1 count of tampering with evidence in a capital felony. A Hillsborough County judge ordered him held without bond. Authorities have not released any updates on trial proceedings or sentencing. In Westchase, neighbors described Levy as kind and soft-spoken, a woman who once ran a daycare for local children. The sheriff called the case an incredibly heartbreaking and tragic situation, urging awareness around mental health intervention. 3 lessons remain clear. Violence inside homes often hides behind normal walls, untreated instability can turn love into destruction, and every tragedy reminds us that justice begins where silence ends. In Tampa's quiet suburbs, one mother's final moments stand as a haunting reminder that peace can shatter in an instant. Before moving on, if this truth hits you, press hype, stand with the forgotten, amplify justice, and make sure silence never buries the voices of the lost. Number 2. J. Leonard Rodriguez. Under the still darkness of a Tampa night, screams pierced the quiet air, followed by silence that would never lift again. The case of 49-year-old J. Leonard Rodriguez revealed a night of unrelenting violence that ended the lives of his pregnant girlfriend, 25-year-old Jennifer Barreras. The brutal killing took place around 3:25 a.m. one Saturday in October 2020, inside a small home on East Emma Street. Rodriguez, already a convicted felon with a long history of assault and armed robbery, was on active felony probation when the attack occurred. A witness inside the home told investigators she heard desperate screams for help coming from the couple's bedroom. When she entered, she saw Rodriguez savagely punching Barreras, who was 6 months pregnant, as she pleaded for help. When the witness tried to intervene, Rodriguez threatened her and resumed his assault. Witness testimony later described him lifting Barreras off the ground and slamming her onto the tile floor multiple times before pinning her to the wall and kicking her in the stomach. Even as she fell silent and stopped moving, Rodriguez continued to stomp on her. Medical examiners found deep bruising, swelling, and a visible shoe tread mark pressed into her skull, evidence later matched to Rodriguez's boots. The witness immediately called 911, following the dispatcher's instructions to perform CPR while waiting for help. Rodriguez fled the scene before police arrived. Officers from the Tampa Police Department arrived minutes later to find Barreras unresponsive, her body bearing extensive trauma. She was rushed to St. Joseph's Hospital, where doctors performed an emergency delivery. The baby was born with a faint heartbeat at 4 to 15 a, but died 10 minutes after Barreras was pronounced dead. Detectives identified Rodriguez as the prime suspect and located him at his mother's home, where he was arrested without resistance. During interrogation, Rodriguez denied killing Barreras, claiming he only grabbed her by the hair after she slapped him. However, forensic investigators recovered physical evidence contradicting his account, including the shoe tread impressions on her skull and blood consistent with his DNA. The autopsy confirmed the cause of death as blunt force trauma. Prosecutors charged Rodriguez with 2 counts of second-degree murder and violation of probation. Hours before the trial, Rodriguez attempted to negotiate a plea deal, but the prosecution rejected it. On the stand, he tried to claim self-defense and minimized his actions, insisting that Barreras was still alive when he left. The jury deliberated less than an hour before returning a guilty verdict on both counts. Rodriguez was sentenced to 2 life terms in state prison without the possibility of parole. The murders drew limited public comment, though local advocates renewed calls for stronger domestic violence awareness programs and better monitoring of repeat offenders. 3 lessons remain: unchecked violence escalates faster than reason, intervention too late saves no one, and justice, though absolute, cannot restore the innocent. In Tampa's humid night air, the echoes of that scream linger, fading only where memory meets justice. Number 3. Ralph Bouzy. Under Florida's bright morning sun, chaos struck without warning, a moment of calm shattered by metal, speed, and deliberate intent. The case of 28-year-old Ralph Bouzy unfolded in Brandon, Florida, as a violent ambush against law enforcement officers that nearly claimed 2 lives. On the morning of the 9th of November 2023, deputies with the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office responded to a call from Bouzy's mother, who reported that her son was acting violently, had trashed her home, and broken through her bedroom door. She told dispatchers he was diagnosed with bipolar and schizophrenic disorders and had stopped taking his medication. At around 8 a.m., Corporal Carlos Brito and Deputy Manuel Santos arrived at the residence, where they found Bouzy seated in a parked Nissan Altima. They tried to de-escalate the situation, urging him to remain calm, but he refused to engage and sped away. 15 minutes later, he returned to the same street and launched a calculated attack. Witnesses said Bouzy accelerated down Dexwell Court, steering directly toward the deputies. One officer jumped aside as the Altima plowed forward, slamming into Brito and Santos, pinning them between the vehicle and their patrol SUV. The collision crushed metal and bone alike in an instant. After impact, Bouzy exited his car and approached aggressively. When he ignored commands, deputies deployed a taser and subdued him. Sheriff Chad Chronister later called the incident a deliberate ambush, describing the attack as absolutely sickening. Investigators quickly secured the scene, photographing skid marks, vehicle damage, and recovering data from the car's onboard computer. Detectives determined that Bouzy's actions were intentional, supported by his history of hostility toward law enforcement. Records showed at least 15 prior Baker Act commitments, 3 felonies, and multiple violent offenses, including ramming a deputy's vehicle in 2015 and headbutting another in 2017 while threatening to kill a sheriff's deputy. His mother had attempted twice in the days before the attack to have him involuntarily committed for psychiatric treatment, but the court denied both petitions. Prosecutors charged Bouzy with 3 counts of attempted murder of a law enforcement officer. Defense attorneys argued that his untreated mental illness made him unfit for trial. Judge Mark Kaiser ordered a psychiatric evaluation, and on the 6th of December 2023, Bouzy was ruled incompetent to proceed, meeting the criteria for involuntary commitment to a secure state hospital for mental health treatment until he is deemed competent to face trial. Both deputies suffered severe leg injuries. Deputy Santos underwent surgery and was released 2 days later, while Corporal Brito endured critical damage that nearly required amputation. He spent nearly a month in the hospital before transferring to rehabilitation. Sheriff Chronister called the attack beyond comprehension and urged broader reform in how mental health crises are handled before violence erupts. 3 lessons remain clear. Untreated mental illness can weaponize despair, quick police response saves lives, but scars remain, and public safety depends on prevention, not reaction. In Brandon's quiet suburbs, tire marks still scar the street, a reminder of how swiftly peace can turn to tragedy. Number 4. Earl Hargrove Jr. Under the glaring Florida sun, a simple argument at a Tampa gas station turned into an act of fire and death. The case of 34-year-old Earl Hargrove Jr. shocked Hillsborough County with its sudden brutality. On the afternoon of the 28th of May 2023, at approximately 4:32 p.m., a verbal altercation between Hargrove and another man escalated into murder. The confrontation unfolded at a mobile gas station near North 22nd Street, where witnesses later told investigators the 2 men exchanged heated words before Hargrove's actions took a deadly turn. After the argument, surveillance footage captured Hargrove walking into the store to buy a small quantity of gasoline. Without warning, he returned to the victim, an unidentified man in his 60 seconds, poured the fuel over him, and set him ablaze. Flames engulfed the victim within seconds, leaving bystanders in shock as smoke filled the air and the victim collapsed near the gas pumps. Responding officers from the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office arrived alongside Tampa Fire Rescue, extinguishing the fire and rushing the critically injured man to Tampa General Hospital. Medical staff confirmed the victim sustained third-degree burns across most of his body, leaving him clinging to life. For 2 weeks, doctors worked to stabilize him, but on June 12, he succumbed to his injuries. The charges against Hargrove were immediately upgraded from attempted first-degree murder to premeditated first-degree murder. Investigators reviewed gas station surveillance footage, collected forensic samples from the scene, and interviewed witnesses. The video evidence confirmed Hargrove's deliberate purchase of gasoline moments before the attack. Detectives determined the act was intentional and unprovoked, though they could not confirm whether Hargrove and the victim knew each other prior to that day. Hargrove was arrested later that evening, around 8:30 p.m., and transported to the Falkenberg Road Jail. He was initially booked on charges of aggravated battery and attempted murder, with bail set at $115,000, $100,000 for the attempted murder charge and $15,000 for the aggravated battery count. After the victim's death, prosecutors upgraded the charges to include premeditated first-degree murder and aggravated battery causing great bodily harm. Records showed a 2005 case involving driving without a license and attempting to elude law enforcement, which remained listed as open. No other violent history was immediately reported. As of the latest updates, Hargrove remains in custody at the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office Detention Center, awaiting further legal proceedings. The Hillsborough County Sheriff described the act as deplorable, emphasizing that no argument should ever end in such inhuman violence. The court proceedings remain ongoing, but officials confirmed Hargrove will face trial on the upgraded murder charge. Sheriff Chronister extended condolences to the victim's family, stating that justice will be pursued fully under Florida law. 3 lessons remain. Rage without reason destroys both victim and perpetrator, impulsive violence leaves irreversible scars, and justice, though methodical, restores balance to tragedy. In Tampa's restless heat, the scent of gasoline and smoke lingers, haunting proof that fury burns faster than conscience. Number 5. Marcus Jenkins and Tristan Wright. Under the bright lights of Tampa's Hard Rock Casino, luck changed hands, and hours later, blood stained the quiet streets of Riverview. On an early September morning, Val Dela Cruz and his fiancée, Kim Chambliss, had won roughly $3,300 at the Seminole Hard Rock Hotel and Casino. They played slots from 1 a.m. to 4 a.m., unaware that 3 men were watching every move. Among them was 33-year-old Marcus Jenkins, a career criminal with 53 felonies, and his accomplice, 29-year-old Tristan Wright. Security footage would later reveal that the suspects tailed the couple from the casino to their driveway, tracking them for nearly 20 miles. Shortly before 5 a.m., the couple parked their BMW in front of their home. As they prepared to step out, 2 masked men emerged from the shadows. Jenkins pointed a gun directly at them, demanding valuables. When Val resisted, the gunmen opened fire. Chambliss was shot in the leg as she tried to shield herself. Val was struck twice, once in the thigh, again in the knee, and collapsed beside the car. Doorbell footage captured the moment Jenkins kicked Val, ripped a watch from his wrist, and grabbed Kim's purse before fleeing. The suspects escaped in a gray Hyundai Sonata driven by Wright. Hillsborough County deputies responded within minutes. Chambliss was treated on scene while officers applied a tourniquet to Dela Cruz's leg, saving his life. Both were rushed to Tampa General Hospital. 5 shell casings were recovered, matching a 9mm handgun later linked to Jenkins. Surveillance footage from the casino became crucial, showing Jenkins stalking the couple for hours, wearing distinct segmented sneakers and ripped jeans. Detectives also identified Wright as the getaway driver through toll and traffic cameras tracing the Sonata's route. Jenkins's criminal record painted a pattern of violence and leniency. Just 1 month earlier, he had been arrested for possessing fentanyl and marijuana after passing out in a Taco Bell drive-thru. He posted a $25,000 bond and walked free. Wright's background included prior narcotics and weapons arrests. Both men were arrested days later, Jenkins on multiple counts, including attempted first-degree murder, armed robbery, and grand theft, Wright as principal to attempted murder. The third suspect remains unidentified. Prosecutors emphasized Jenkins's lengthy history, arguing that the ambush was premeditated and predatory. The courtroom atmosphere was tense but brief. Jenkins's attorney requested a competency review, delaying proceedings, while the victim's statements described lasting trauma. Sheriff Grady Judd condemned the revolving door justice system, saying such offenders should never walk free again. The hearing concluded with both suspects held without bond pending trial. The community's outrage echoed online, where residents demanded stricter oversight for repeat violent offenders. 3 lessons endure. Unchecked recidivism invites tragedy, modern surveillance remains the silent witness to every crime, and true justice demands accountability before, not after, the harm is done. In the quiet of Riverview, a driveway still bears the scars of luck turned lethal, a cruel reminder that fortune can vanish faster than a heartbeat. Number 6. Lazaro Basilio Martinez Rojas. Under Tampa's warm November night, one swipe on a dating app led to a crime scene that chilled even seasoned detectives. The murder of 53-year-old Robert O'Connor exposed the horrifying reality of digital trust turned deadly. On the 7th of November 2023, O'Connor met 25-year-old Lazaro Basilio Martinez Rojas through the dating app Grindr. What began as a private encounter inside O'Connor's East Okara Road home would end in a brutal homicide that unfolded in front of his own security cameras. Court documents revealed that after their encounter, O'Connor asked Martinez Rojas to leave the house. Instead, an argument erupted. Surveillance video from inside the home captured the escalation. Martinez Rojas attacked O'Connor, wrapping his hands around the victim's neck. As O'Connor struggled, Martinez Rojas overpowered him, forcing him to the ground and pressing down on his throat until his body went still. Investigators later stated that the killer stood on O'Connor's neck for several seconds after he stopped moving, ensuring there was no life left. The footage didn't stop there. Martinez Rojas was then seen dragging O'Connor's lifeless body down the hallway into a bedroom. In his hand was a large kitchen knife. The camera recorded him mutilating the victim's body before wrapping it tightly in sheets. The crime scene would later reveal blood smears across the walls and hallways, with the smell of decomposition heavy in the air. Days passed before anyone realized O'Connor was missing. Friends grew worried when he failed to answer calls or show up for work. 4 days after the murder, they arrived at his home and immediately sensed something was wrong. They contacted police, who entered the house to find a disturbing scene: blood throughout the living room and bedroom, and what appeared to be 2 bodies. Moments later, officers discovered that one of them was still breathing. Martinez Rojas had been hiding under the living room couch, clutching a kitchen knife beneath his leg. Detectives immediately took him into custody. The home security video left no doubt about what had occurred, providing a clear timeline of the murder. Forensic teams confirmed that O'Connor's body was found wrapped in sheets inside the bedroom. Rojas was charged with first-degree murder and transported to the Hillsborough County Jail, where he remains held without bond. In court, prosecutors described the case as overwhelming in evidence and opposed any attempt at release. After consulting his attorney, Martinez Rojas waived his bond hearing. His defense acknowledged that the surveillance footage alone would have prevented any judge from granting bond. Community members expressed disbelief at the cruelty of the crime. Friends described O'Connor as kind, trusting, and generous, saying his death served as a warning about the dangers of online dating and bringing strangers home. 3 lessons remain. Digital trust can carry deadly consequences, private encounters must never ignore safety, and justice built on evidence ensures no horror remains hidden. In Tampa's quiet suburbs, one home stands as proof that evil sometimes walks in by invitation and never leaves alive. Number 7. Ronny Tremel Walker. Beneath the quiet lights of Tampa's early morning, a black Ford Fusion carried a secret too violent to stay hidden. The murder of runaway Nylexia Alexander on the 6th of May 2022 shattered the illusion of safety in a city already scarred by crime. She had left her home in Temple Terrace seeking her birth parents, but instead encountered 44-year-old repeat offender Ronny Tremel Walker, a man with a history of violence who would end her life within minutes of meeting her. Surveillance footage captured Nylexia entering Walker's car near his home around 3 a.m. 15 minutes later. Gunfire echoed across Florabraska Avenue. Neighbors called 911 after hearing 6 shots. Police found her body in a vacant lot, face down, her phone charger nearby, but her phone missing. Investigators determined that Walker shot Nylexia once inside the car, forced her out, and fired several more times at close range. Prosecutors later described the act as an execution. The Tampa Police Department launched an intensive investigation. ShotSpotter data pinpointed the exact time of the shooting, while multiple cameras captured a dark Ford Fusion driving without headlights near the crime scene. The vehicle became the key clue. Detectives traced it to Walker and secured a warrant to search the car. Inside, they found blood traces belonging to both Nylexia and Walker. DNA also linked a third person, identified as 35-year-old Robert Creed, later charged as an accessory after the fact. Phone data showed Nylexia's missing cell phone traveling in Walker's car that night. Detectives learned that Walker had attempted to clean the vehicle and discard evidence, including the weapon, which was never recovered. He was arrested by U.S. Marshals 2 months later and charged with premeditated first-degree murder. Prosecutors argued the murder was deliberate and cold-blooded, carried out by a man who had already taken a life 2 decades earlier. In June 2025, the trial opened in Hillsborough County. Prosecutors presented forensic evidence, GPS data, and testimony from Walker's accomplice. Nylexia's mother, Ashley Alexander, told jurors about her daughter's restless search for identity and the text messages they shared hours before the murder. Defense attorneys insisted that Creed was the shooter, not Walker. But the jury deliberated less than a day before returning a guilty verdict for first-degree premeditated murder. Despite the state's pursuit of the death penalty, the jury could not reach a unanimous decision. The court sentenced Walker to life in prison without parole. Nylexia's mother called the verdict a step toward justice, but said no sentence could erase the silence left in her home. Outside, officials described the case as a reminder of how easily a system's leniency can cost another life. 3 lessons remain. Unchecked violence resurfaces when justice hesitates, repeat offenders demand stricter review before release, and the pursuit of freedom for one cannot outweigh the right of another to live. In Tampa's quiet streets, a mother still waits for peace that no verdict can ever deliver. Number 8. Travis Garrett. Under the flashing lights of Brandon's night sky, one man's rage turned a routine police call into a deadly ambush. On the 11th of January 2021, Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office Sergeant Brian Levine, a veteran deputy just hours from retirement, was killed when 32-year-old Travis Garrett deliberately rammed his car into Levine's patrol vehicle. The crash occurred during a police chase that began after Garrett violently attacked deputies and fled his apartment complex. That afternoon, deputies had twice responded to the Paddock Club apartments after neighbors reported Garrett behaving erratically. The first visit ended without arrest, but the second call revealed chaos. Witnesses said Garrett, naked and shouting, was throwing items from his window and harassing residents. When deputies confronted him, he attacked, striking one officer in the head. Tasers failed to subdue him. Garrett jumped into his vehicle, broke through the complex gate, and sped away. As deputies pursued, radio transmissions warned that Garrett was driving at extreme speed down Lumsden Road. Sergeant Levine, parked in a marked patrol car nearby, was monitoring the chase when Garrett suddenly swerved across 2 lanes and slammed directly into his driver's side door. The impact crushed the vehicle, trapping Levine inside. First responders rushed him to Tampa General Hospital, where he was pronounced dead. Investigators found no evidence of mechanical failure. Dashcam and witness testimony confirmed that Garrett's actions were intentional. Prosecutors cited the collision pattern, acceleration data, and Garrett's statements as proof that he aimed to kill an officer. The Hillsborough County Sheriff described the act as a deliberate attack on law enforcement. The investigation also uncovered Garrett's violent past. In 2017, he assaulted two sheriff's deputies in Georgia after attacking them with a cane and punching one in the head. He was never prosecuted, instead diverted into mental health treatment. Records show multiple Baker Act interventions in Florida, but Garrett failed to maintain therapy or medication compliance. While hospitalized after the 2021 crash, Garrett was booked under guard. A grand jury indicted him for first-degree premeditated murder of a law enforcement officer, along with 8 additional felonies including DUI manslaughter, aggravated fleeing, and resisting arrest with violence. In March 2025, Garrett pleaded guilty to second-degree murder and related charges to avoid a lengthy trial. Paralyzed from injuries sustained in the crash, he appeared in court in a wheelchair. Judge Christopher Nash sentenced him to 45 years in Florida State Prison, with credit for 4 years already served. In court, Sergeant Levine's widow and daughter spoke briefly but powerfully, describing a loss that obliterated everything we knew and loved. Sheriff Chad Chronister said the sentence brought closure, though it could never equal the life taken. The courtroom fell silent as deputies saluted their fallen colleague. 3 lessons remain. Untreated mental illness can evolve into public tragedy, repeat violence ignored by the system invites disaster, and every uniformed officer faces dangers unseen until the final moment. In Brandon's Dark Highway, one deputy's sacrifice stands eternal, a reminder that duty can end in silence, but never in vain. Number 9. Louis Jules. Under Tampa's clear October sky, an argument over a pickup truck turned into a double homicide caught entirely on camera. On the 3rd of October 2025, a financial dispute on El Portal Drive erupted into fatal violence when 59-year-old Louis Jules shot and killed 37-year-old Carlos Chirinos, and 40-year-old Jessica Yusmera Caíbar Rivera Seco. The confrontation began over an unpaid debt for a white Chevrolet Colorado pickup truck Jules claimed he had sold to the couple. What started as a demand for payment ended in seconds of bloodshed that left a quiet neighborhood shaken. That morning, the couple drove to Jules' residence to meet him. Witnesses later said Jules believed they were there to deliver the money. He approached the vehicle and attempted to open its rear passenger door. Rivera Seco objected, yelling for him not to enter. As she continued shouting in Spanish, Chirinos stepped toward Jules, who reacted by throwing the contents of his drink at him. In one swift motion, Jules pulled a concealed semi-automatic pistol from his waistband, racked the slide, and fired repeatedly. Chirinos collapsed near the truck. Rivera Seco screamed and tried to flee to the passenger side, but Jules fired again, striking her multiple times. The entire sequence was captured on Rivera Seco's cell phone, which was still recording when officers arrived. Tampa police responded to the 911 call shortly after 11 a.m. They found the male victim dead near the driver's side door and the woman partially hanging from the passenger seat. Detectives quickly recovered her phone, which provided clear footage of the shooter's face and actions. From that single piece of evidence, investigators circulated a still image through the neighborhood. 2 residents and Jules' landlord immediately identified him as the man in the video. By late afternoon, undercover officers located Jules at an address in Ybor City. As law enforcement surrounded him, he discarded a black pistol and his sunglasses into the bed of a nearby pickup truck. He was arrested around 6 p.m., less than 8 hours after the murders. During questioning, Jules admitted being the man in the video and knowing the victims. He claimed anger overcame him when they refused to take him to an ATM to collect payment. Forensic testing later confirmed that the discarded weapon matched shell casings recovered from the scene. Jules was charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder and 1 count of tampering with evidence. After consulting with his attorney, he waived his pretrial detention hearing. The judge ordered that he be held without bond while awaiting trial. Prosecutors confirmed the state would seek either life imprisonment or the death penalty. Neighbors described the shooting as shocking and tragic, stunned that such violence unfolded in broad daylight. The victim's relatives called for justice, describing Jules as controlling and aggressive. 3 lessons endure. Financial disputes can escalate into irreversible tragedy. Technology ensures the truth is never fully erased, and justice begins with evidence, not emotion. In Tampa's midday silence, 2 lives ended, but 1 recording made sure the truth would never fade. Number 10. Jerome Parker. Under the still heat of a Tampa afternoon, a senseless argument over a package of socks turned into a fatal confrontation. On the 9th of August 2024, at Copeland Park on North 15th Street, 30-year-old Jerome Alexander Parker shot and killed 22-year-old Nasir Delaney Rowland after a brief, violent dispute. What began as a misunderstanding escalated into a murder that would later be described by police as both pointless and heartbreaking. The incident unfolded when Delaney Rowland, walking with friends through the park, picked up a sealed package of new black socks lying on the ground. As the group neared a picnic shelter, Parker rode toward them on a bicycle, shouting that the socks belonged to him. Witnesses recalled Parker's growing aggression as he dismounted, accusing the young man of theft. When he reached toward his waistband, Delaney Rowland struck him in the face, knocking him down. The victim dropped the socks, which Parker retrieved. Moments later, the situation reignited. Parker rose to his feet and advanced again, this time pulling a dark pistol. He pointed it directly at Delaney Rowland's head, threatening to shoot. The victim asked nearby parkgoers for help, but none intervened. Instead, he punched Parker again, and within seconds, Parker fired once. The bullet pierced the victim's skull, killing him instantly. Parker left the package of socks where it had fallen, mounted another bicycle nearby, and fled the scene before police arrived. Tampa police officers were dispatched just after 3 p.m. Responding units found Delaney Rowland lying on the pavement, bleeding from a gunshot wound to the head. Paramedics transported him to a nearby hospital, where he was pronounced dead shortly afterward. Detectives immediately began canvassing the area and collected witness accounts describing the argument, the punch, and the single gunshot that ended the altercation. Investigators recovered physical evidence from the park, including shell casings and a partial DNA sample from a discarded beverage container. Surveillance footage from nearby businesses captured a man matching Parker's description riding away on a bicycle. Witness identifications, combined with forensic analysis, led to a warrant for Parker's arrest. After 6 weeks of searching, detectives located him at an apartment in East Tampa and took him into custody on the 21st of September 2024. Prosecutors charged Parker with first-degree premeditated murder with a firearm, but the jury ultimately found him guilty of second-degree murder with the use of a firearm. During sentencing in 2025, Parker, then 31, was sentenced to life imprisonment without parole in a Florida state correctional facility. The courtroom remained quiet as the verdict was read, offering little solace to the victim's family. Police Chief Lee Burkall later called the killing a senseless act that took a young man's life over nothing, commending detectives for bringing closure to the victim's loved ones. 3 lessons remain. Violence often grows from moments of impulse, every life ends leaves ripples of silence, and justice, though delayed, restores balance to chaos. In the shadow of Copeland Park, one shot over a pair of socks still echoes louder than words. From the blood-soaked streets of Riverview to the quiet suburbs of Westchase, every crime leaves echoes that time can't erase. Which case chilled you the most? Which story do you think deserves justice still waiting to be served? Tell us in the comments. Your voice keeps the truth alive. And if you want more real crime, raw justice, and hidden truths, hit subscribe, tap the notification bell, and never miss what's coming next. Because in Tampa, the next headline might already be written tonight.